We also have events throughout the year, again, all put together by volunteers. The next one coming up is the Forum for the School District Candidates. So that will be October 12th, so a week from tomorrow at the VFW from 3:30 to 5:15. Kind of an odd time. Our high school had a volleyball coach that would always do things at like 2:12 because she thought she could remember it better. So hopefully that's the case. Kind of an odd number, easier to remember. All right, so without further ado, I would love to welcome Jan Phillips, who is going to get us started on this journey today. All right, a little shift change here. Don't look. Pay no attention to the women behind the curtain.
We wish.
Okay, thank you, Tara. And thank you all for coming out today. I really appreciate that. And just to sort of reiterate a little bit of what Tara was talking about, the preamble is our mission statement for the Constitution. I always knew we had a preamble, but boy, I am learning so much more about our laws states and how unfortunately so many are just being damaged, broken, or ignored. And that's one of the reasons why we're here today. But we the people is so important in the preamble. It's basically, it's about us. You know, we're enacting it, and we have representatives and people in DC who are representing our will, not theirs. But unfortunately, these days, it doesn't seem to be going that way. And also the Constitution is being enacted. Why the Constitution is enacted is because the preamble is telling us that, is telling us why that is happening. So it's we, the people, are making that happen. And to form a more perfect union, we don't have a lot of unity today in this polarized world. And that's something that we've got to work on as well, to unify each other and establish justice to create fairness through laws and courts so everyone is treated equally under the law, not just some privileged few. So I think it's interesting to think about what the preamble is actually saying, especially at this moment in history. So what do we do when our laws are being violated, when public trust is betrayed, or there's intentional domestic unrest? When injustice becomes law, resistance becomes our duty. We don't sit back. Being silent is tacit agreement. So the League of Women Voters National Office declared this past April that we are in a constitutional crisis. We're not sliding toward it. We're not coming up to it, but we are in it. And they said, quote, "We are in a moment of historic disruption. It's time for us to reclaim democracy and restore accountability. Our local league is committed to helping our community respond to soften the impact of many of the executive orders of our administration and the laws that are being passed by Congress. And we have to defend the rights that we have, or maybe I'll speak for myself, kind of taken for granted for many, many years." So at the League's core is the belief that policy decisions must serve the common good. Oftentimes people wonder where our policy positions come from. They seem to be closer related to one party or another, but that's not where our essence is. It is for the common good and upholding what benefits everyone, not just the privileged groups. So as advertised, this year's Back to League meeting is entitled "Action is the Antidote for Anxiety." The intention is to acknowledge that in our current political climate, people are feeling fear, frustration, anger, disappointment, and anxiety. So rather than just staying stuck in these emotions and the stress, the League hopes to provide you all with a range of options for how you can take action and make a difference locally, at the state level, and nationally. So. Oh, you're doing it.
That's your mic.
Oh, okay, so I don't even read this. All right, I know what I'm doing. Okay, so we've chosen to focus on 4 different areas of concern affecting us: healthcare, voter rights and security, environmental protections, and immigration. Following the presentations, these speakers will be at their respective tables in the back and around here, and they can answer any questions at that time. And we also have some people from local organizations here who need volunteer help that you can chat with afterwards as well. So after the speakers finish, we'll highlight several action opportunities that fit with your interests, your available time, what you feel capable of doing. And representatives from local organizations will be here to discuss volunteer opportunities. So here we go.
Okay, to go next slide.
Next slide. I forgot, I meant to say that too. I don't leave alone. Oh, here we go. Okay. Oh, so, and many of us, I feel, are exhausted, tired, and perhaps even a little apathetic. So please remember the words of the famed primatologist, anthropologist, and conservationist who passed away just a few days ago, Jane Goodall. May her memory and work be an inspiration to all of us. If we look at the whole picture, we're bound to feel hopeless. But once we realize that even small actions cumulatively can make a big difference, we can start taking action to make the world a better place. That's what we're doing today. We're here to make the world a better place. So, next slide. I think I'm getting this now. We're going to begin with healthcare. As many of you know, the recent bill, H.R. 1, passed by Congress, imposes a series of severe restrictions on many areas of healthcare, health insurance, and pharmaceuticals. Our rural community, already facing healthcare challenges, will need to come together now more than ever to support one another in navigating these difficult challenges. With that in mind, it is my pleasure to introduce Gwyn Unger. Gwyn attended Rice University in Houston, Texas, graduating with a degree in electrical engineering. He's been advocating for universal healthcare for 2 decades. He believes that the best solution for healthcare at this time is for several states to implement their own single-payer systems. Gwyn is currently the president of Colorado Healthcare Coalition, a local nonprofit organization that advocates for universal healthcare in Colorado. Let's give a warm welcome to Gwyn.
Gonna take me a minute here to just get my presentation up. Let's see. So you may be aware that our healthcare payment system is a bit of a mess. And we're gonna talk about some of the things that are a bit of a problem at the moment. What we got here?
Security. Malware.
All right, hang on a second. All right,
Just hit cancel.
don't know what's going on
Yes.
with that.
Just cancel.
It's not really, I'm not seeing that here. It's the
That's
problem.
down at the bottom, right.
No,
Let's
it's
go to Antidote.
lost the
If you just hit return, we'll let.
There we go, perfect,
Ah.
perfect.
idea. So you can see the title for my presentation, Very Bad News for Health Insurance Premiums in 2026. And we'll talk about this some. And then there is a potential solution that we can talk about. So the ACA or ACA Marketplace provides premium tax credits for marketplace policies. So this has been in there from the beginning. So if you're at a particular income level, the government basically pays part of the premium for your health insurance policy. Okay, and that's income based. The enhanced premium tax credits were instituted during COVID. And so things were, getting really bad in COVID, and obviously it made sense to have everybody possible having health insurance. So they put those in to make sure that people could get the health insurance that they need, get their vaccines, all that sort of stuff. And of course, those expire at the end of 2025, and they were not renewed in the big, beautiful bill that was passed a few months ago. So that means that major changes are going to occur for policies in 2026. So this information that I'm going to show you right now is coming from the Colorado Department of Insurance. And I just put their link up here just to show you this is not stuff I just made up. It actually came from there. And what we're talking about right now has to do with that marketplace. We're not talking about Medicare. We're not talking about Medicaid particularly, or VA or any of that sort of stuff. It's basically the Colorado marketplace where people who don't have insurance through their employers or Medicare or whatever can go and get health insurance. And that's Connect for Health Colorado is what that's called. So this information is a little bit dated, but it's the best we have at the moment, because these are going to be the numbers that were submitted by the insurance companies to the Department of Insurance. And now the state has made a few changes that are going to change these rates, and the insurers are resubmitting their insurance rates to the state, but it's not going to be a huge difference from what we have here. So we'll just talk about what we've got here. These were the average, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky. It's average requested rate increases for 2026 for each of these companies. And you can see that it ranges from 7.8%, which when you have about 3% inflation is a big increase, right? All the way to 16.7% for United Healthcare. And so the average of the averages is about 13.6%. I don't know if you can see that very well. So we are area 9, which is this area out here. Okay. And it goes to different areas, insurance areas over the state. And ours is at 14.9%. So a little bit higher than the state average, right? And so you can see that, but still it's ranging for like the lowest is at 11.7 up there. And so again, it's just showing you we pay more than the people in the front, and we're going to get bigger increases. So this shows basically this column is the 2026 average requested silver plan monthly premium. Okay, that's a long name. And this is the requested increase, and this is the annual increase in the premium. So for somebody who's 21 years old that lives in Denver, the requested premium for a silver plan is $484. That is a 13.5% increase over 2025. And that means that person is going to pay over the whole year another $691 for their health insurance. And then you can tell obviously that the rate goes up as you get older, okay? That's the way the ACA is structured. So somebody who's 45, you can see different numbers. And somebody who's 60 years old, instead of paying the $484 that somebody who's 21 would pay, they'd be paying $1,314 a month for their health insurance. And that is a 13.5% increase, and it would cost them an extra $1,800 a year over what they paid in 2025. Okay? Now, if you look at Region 9, look how much higher those numbers are than Denver. So not only are we paying a little bit higher rate increases, but we're paying a lot more for the actual premiums. So you can see that somebody who's 60 years old that's in our region would be paying $3,430 a year more than they paid last year for the exact same thing. Kind of a mess. So what's causing these increases? Well, it's kind of complicated, as you might imagine. In fact, I think that the special interests kind of try to make this complicated so that people cannot understand it and don't have a clue how to deal with it. So the first thing is increased costs for medical care and equipment. And if you watch this at all, if you look at medical inflation over the last several decades, and remember, inflation is paying more for the exact same thing, right? So medical inflation has typically been 3 to 4% more than the consumer price index. Each year, it goes up that much more. And so you're going to have increased costs for medical care and equipment. They've eliminated the enhanced premium tax credits. There's an expected then reduction in the number of healthy people buying health insurance. When it goes up, what's going to happen? Some people can't afford to pay it, right? So the people that are going to tend to drop their insurance are the people who are healthy, right? Now, when you have an insurance pool and you take out the healthy people, what's that do to the cost for everybody else? Drives it up, right? And there's also the expected reduction in the number of people qualifying for Medicaid. So if you recall, the bill that was passed makes it more difficult for people to get on Medicaid and to stay on Medicaid. Okay, not that necessarily people are kicked off, but there's a bunch of proof that they have to make for things in order to stay on Medicaid. So if those people drop off of Medicaid, that means that hospitals and so on are going to still see some of those people, but they're not going to be able to pay, which means those costs again have to be spread over the rest of the population, right? So average increase as high as 38% have been requested for the Western Slope. 38%, that's over last year, 1 year increase, okay? And we estimate that 100,000 Coloradans will lose their health insurance coverage. This is the, I said we, this is the Department of Insurance saying, it's not me, okay? Now percentages can be confusing. You got to be kind of careful about that because, for example, if your prior premium was $15 a month and it jumped up to $30 a month, that's a 100% increase, even though the extra amount you're paying is not particularly high. But you know, obviously, if you were paying $400, now you're paying $500. Well, that's a 20% increase. But it's $100 more that you have to pay every month. So the effects of decreased enrollments, again, 100,000 people will lose or drop their coverage because they simply can't afford it anymore. These people are generally younger and healthier, so the people that continue to enroll will be less healthy and need more care. Again, this is all the kind of stuff that's driving the rates up. And of course, the insurance companies will then need higher rates to cover their increased costs of care. That doesn't sound particularly good, does it? So Colorado's trying to help. There's a reinsurance program that the state put in, which basically reinsurance is insurance for insurance companies, okay? So the state put in a reinsurance policy so that if for a particular person, the amount that the insurance company's having to pay, they got something seriously wrong and the amount's going way up, the state will pick up a portion of that. I think it's 2/3 over and above a certain amount, okay? So in order to try to hold these increases down, the state has increased the amount of reinsurance that they're willing to pay. Okay, and then the state's changing cost sharing reduction levels, that's all part of the same thing. And the insurance companies are resubmitting their proposals, that's what I told you right at the beginning. So they're now going back and saying, okay, instead of what we asked for originally, this is what we're gonna propose. And the Department of Insurance doesn't really have the ability to say, no, you can't do that. The only thing that the Department of Insurance can really do is say, what you've said about why you want to raise rates is not valid, and so you need to go back and do it again. But there's very little regulation there. So what can we do? You can contact your representatives in Congress, they help you restore the enhanced premium tax credits, right? Think that'll work?
No.
Probably not. You can, if you're on the exchange, you can look at those plans very carefully. Now, I consider myself to be a reasonably informed and intelligent person, and I have a terrible time on the exchange. If I just go onto the website, try to figure out which one of these things is best for me, good luck. And so the other thing I'd say is consider using a broker to help you. So there are brokers out there, we use one, and he's very informed about what's going on, and he can point you in the right direction based on, your particular situation. I suspect that the brokers are going to be overwhelmed this year. So if that's something you need to do, you probably should contact one pretty quickly. And just expect to spend more. That's really what it's going to come down to. So I want to just give you a few facts about our current healthcare system, and it's designed to maximize profits for companies' executives, not provide healthcare for everybody. Okay, I think we all know that at this point. We spend a very large amount on healthcare. So I'm going to do a little quiz here, and if you know the answer, don't say it quite yet. Okay, but how much was the total spending for healthcare in the U.S. in 2003? Okay, that's the latest that we have numbers for. It takes them a long time to get all those numbers together. Okay, I'm going to give you a reference point. Okay, the Department of Defense budget in 2023 was $850 billion. So how many of you think we spent less than that on healthcare? This is all spending, everybody, the government, the companies, so on and so forth. How many people think we spent less than $850 billion on healthcare? How many of you think we spent about that same amount? And how many of you think we spent more? So the mores have it. You might, if you thought about it a second, you'd probably say, he's not even going to ask this question unless we spent more, okay? So I'm going to give you we did in fact spend more than that. I'm going to give you another number, okay? Just about a month ago, the UN came out and said that the entire world spent $2.7 trillion on their militaries in that same year. Well, that was actually 2024, but it's about the same, okay? $2.7 trillion. So how many of you think we spent less than $2.7 trillion on healthcare in 2023? A few hands. How many of you think we spent about 2.7 trillion on healthcare? And how many of you think we spent more than $2.7 trillion on healthcare? We did. So the amount, I can't remember if I put it on here or not, $4.9 trillion we spent on healthcare, $4.9 trillion in 2023. Okay, so now you might ask yourself, well, we're a big company, we're a big country. If I'm running out of time, let me know. All right. So maybe we spend more because we have, so many people. Well, in fact, we spend twice as much per person as other developed countries on average. Okay, twice as much per person. And then you might say, well, if we're spending all this money, surely we're getting better health care than other countries, right? But we don't get better healthcare outcomes than other developed countries. In fact, when the Commonwealth Fund does their survey every couple of years and they compare the top 10, 11, 12 developed countries, guess who comes in last on healthcare outcomes? We do. Okay. Another quiz, which country has the worst maternal mortality rate among developed countries and one of the worst infant mortality rates? So maternal mortality is women that die giving birth or, afterwards. And infant mortality rates are infants that die in the first year. So which country do you think has the worst maternal mortality rates among developed countries? It's us. Pretty sad, right? So there is a better way. We talk about single payer universal healthcare system. So what our organization, Colorado Healthcare Coalition, is advocating for is a single payer system in Colorado. Well, why are we not trying to do this at a national level? It ain't gonna happen at a national level, and we know that. Okay, there's even our two Democratic senators don't really support a national single payer system. Okay, so the Republicans are totally against it. There's all sorts of special interests spending money to lobby our Congress. It's not gonna happen. But we do think it can happen in Colorado. Okay, and again, it's a system that covers everyone regardless of how much money they have. That's our key. These cover everybody regardless of how much money they have. So payments into this system that we're proposing would be based on income, ability to pay. So if you have a fair amount of money, you're going to pay more than this person that's making minimum wage. Overall spending would be substantially less. The Colorado School of Public Health did a study a few years ago and showed that a single payer system in Colorado would save anywhere between $1 and $4 billion in the first year over what we're doing now. And you might think, how in the world can you cover more people for more things that cost less? And the answer is there's a huge administrative burden in the system that we have right now. Okay. So now the Colorado School of Public Health has been commissioned by the legislature to do a detailed study of how we can make this work best. Okay. It took us 3 years to get the bill through the legislature, but it did pass. So here's the problem. The Colorado legislature was unable to fund the study. Okay. There basically was no money in the budget for discretionary spending, which is what this would be called. And so they stated that the study could be funded through gifts, grants, and donations. We need to raise $750,000 by the end of 2025 in order for the study to proceed. Now that's a little bit wrong. If we can get $405,000 raised by the end of November, then the study can start. And then the other $350,000 is to extend the study to cover long-term care. Okay, and we think that's incredibly important because most people that go bankrupt from medical bills is because they've been stuck with long-term care that they have to pay for over a period of time. So we have raised, at this point, it's not just Colorado Healthcare Coalition, but some other nonprofits working together. We've raised $250,000 of the $750,000 as of right now. And in fact, most of that came from two very generous donors who donated $100,000 each. Okay. So we're also creating fundraising events. We're working with a person who does fundraising with nonprofits. That's her job. She works for Movement Voter Project. So we've got these things coming up, and of course we're reaching out to potential donors, and some of you, we may reach out to you, ask you to donate money. This is incredibly important. I mean, there's no way we can efficiently take something to the voters if we don't have the information that's required for this study. But if we get that, then we can go and say, voters, here's something we want you to vote on, and here's the information that backs that up. That yes, we can do that. So what's the next step? So you can join or donate to our organization. We're a 501c3, so donations to us are tax deductible to the extent allowed by law. I have to say it that way. It's going to cost a lot eventually to get the truth to the citizens of Colorado in the face of the misinformation that's spread from the special interests. So get involved. This is not something that's just going to happen on its own, but you can make a difference. And I'm convinced we can make this go. So appreciate your attention. I don't know if we have time to answer any questions. Did we? Yes, ma'am.
a number of years back, something similar to this was presented at the state level. I believe voters voted on it.
Yes.
What happened at that time to that?
So that was Amendment 69 in 2016, okay? It unfortunately, the people that were pushing the amendment did not raise anywhere near enough money to get it to go through. Because the special interest to me are the health insurance companies, the big hospital chains, the pharmacy companies, spread all kinds of misinformation about what this would have really done. And it failed miserably, honestly. I think about how much better off we would be if that had passed. You know, it was not perfect. Anything we put in front of the voters is not gonna be perfect. But we can put something out there that's so much better than what we have now. Okay, so we learned a lot of lessons from that Amendment 69, and I think we're gonna be able to carry that forward.
How does the single payer healthcare for Colorado interact with people on the Medicare who also have quite high cost of healthcare?
Okay, so the question is, how would the universal healthcare system interact with something like Medicare that older people are on? The ACA allows the government to give waivers to a state, okay? So we would ask the government, hopefully a different administration at that point, to give us the Medicare money, and then we'll just cover all the Medicare. Okay, that would be the best. And so this system would act as your supplement, okay, in addition to cover all the things that Medicare covers and more. So that would be the ideal. If in fact the administration said, no, we're not going to do that, then you might have to have a hybrid system. So people that are on Medicare 65 and over have to stay on Medicare. Other people would be in this system. And of course, this is some of the information we need from the study that the School of Public Health is going to do, is how would all that interact? So I can't give you a great answer on that right now, but that's part of what we're trying to get from the School of Public Health.
Is the Western Slope higher percentage wise because there are more young people, they're poorer people, they're healthier people? Why is the Western Slope a higher percentage than the Denver area?
So I think the main thing is that insurance works best when you have a large group of people that are covered, right? And I don't know if you remember back there, I think there's, you know, on the ACA market, there's only about 5,000 people in that whole area, region 9 thing. So it becomes much less efficient for the insurance companies to actually provide insurance in our counties. And on top of that, of course, they just push the price up as high as they can push it. Questions?
And people.
Yeah, I'll be back at this table then, and we've got some handouts and things we can talk about. And again, if you can make a donation, one of the things that we're doing is, if you make a donation to Colorado Healthcare Coalition, we will pass that along 100% to the School of Public Health. Right now, there's issues with the School of Public Health because they're being attacked by the current administration, just like other universities. And they got to be very careful about how they do things and what they say. And they don't want to get the administration mad at them. Okay. So one simple way to do that, if you want to make a larger donation, if you want to donate some securities that you have or stock, any of that kind of stuff, check with me. I've got a thing back there how you can send us an email, and we can put you in touch with the people at the Colorado School of Public Health person who can handle that. Okay. I mean, you got they do all that kind of stuff. You got property or something you want to donate to them, that's fine. But if you're going to make a smaller donation, you can do it via credit card on our website. And again, we will send that along. We've sent almost $6,000 so far from our organization. And my goal really is to try to raise $100,000, our organization and people in this area. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, man.
Thank you so much, Gwen. And, just a word, back at the healthcare table, all of our speakers will be back at the tables to ask questions too, if we do run out of time. But for people who may lose their insurance, and it may be people that you know, we have a really good form about things you can do right now before the end of the year. Like stockpiling medication, or just a lot of wonderful hints on what to do. And we'll also have it on the League of Women Voters website. So, for your information, the National League of Women Voters has proudly noted that the Colorado's election system is the gold standard nationwide. Next slide, please. That reputation is not an accident. It is the result of dedicated public servants who work to make our system both secure and accessible. Here in La Plata County, we are fortunate to have one of those leaders with us here today. Tiffany Lee, our outstanding county clerk, has worked tirelessly to ensure that voting in Colorado, and especially Colorado's vote by mail system, is safe, trusted, and embraced across the political spectrum. Please join me in welcoming Tiffany Lee. Oh, maybe not that one. I could probably just talk loud enough, but that's okay. I know how you can get in the back. Can you guys hear me in the back okay?
Yes.
All right. Well, I don't have a PowerPoint. I've got, I think, about 10 minutes, Jan. Yes. Okay, so make sure I stay on point there, and then I'll stay here through the whole duration for extra questions. So first of all, it's an honor to be here and to see this many people turn out on a Saturday afternoon. It's incredible, and a lot of new faces. So just a tiny bit of my background for those of you that don't know me. I began this work in 1996. I was a 19-year-old kid, single mom, that needed a job desperately outside of waitressing, and I was in college, and a county clerk took a chance with me and hired me in Bend, Oregon. So I started there in Deschutes County, and I worked for her for 10 years and worked in all the positions, and I was her chief deputy. Came home and worked for my predecessor, Linda Daly, and when she retired in 2010, I ran for office, and I've been your county clerk ever since. So 29 years of this. The reason I give you that history and that little background is what I have seen over 29 years is pretty remarkable, and remarkable in the good way, in my opinion. I think we have come in both those states, and a lot of states, we have come from, in my opinion, voter suppression to now where we are doing everything we possibly can to ensure every eligible elector has that right to vote. And I will continue that fight, and that's why I'm here today, and I think this is so important that we're doing this type of work. So when I began in the 90s in Oregon, polling place elections, a little more difficult, as we all know, of people wanting to get access to that ballot. And my county clerk at the time was one of those that was instrumental in creating mail ballot. That went to the vote of the people in 98 in Oregon, and it's been that way ever since. The people voted it in to vote by mail 100% in Oregon, and they've been doing a fantastic job ever since. In Colorado, we've been doing it here in actually La Plata County since 1992. My predecessor began doing mail ballots for all the off-year elections, just like we're coming up right now. Those were all by mail. In 2012, we went to the primaries going to mail, and then in 2013, which was a fantastic year, we've reformed Colorado elections, changed many, many things, but one of which was we're going to be a mail ballot delivery state. Also, we're going to allow you to vote in person if you choose to. So we are a hybrid. And that is one of the things that makes us so fantastic and unique in the state of Colorado, or the United States, excuse me, is that we're giving every opportunity. So if you don't want that mail ballot, you still have that choice to come in person.
use the mail ballot as a sample ballot is what I always tell them. And a lot of people didn't even know there was an election going on, right? So things were getting passed without them even knowing that there was an election going on. That mail ballot in their inbox is a way to say, hey, look at school boards on there. The county has a question, the fire district has a question. Those are really impactful things that gives us a voice, right? So you will see I have a huge amount of passion about mail ballot. I was an advocate back in the 90s, helped get that on the ballot and helped get that passed by petition. And here I am again in Colorado in 2013. I was part of that group that reformed elections to create that. At the time, I was a registered Republican. So I was the rogue Republican, and believe me, I took a hit for it, but to do some pretty progressive things in elections. And there was quite a few of us Republicans that said, we're here for the people. This is the people's elections. Just as we started with the Constitution, right? Elections are the people's elections. They're not mine. They're not the government's. They're yours. That's really, really important to remember, especially right now. So we were able to get that mail ballot in place. Okay. So it's been extremely disheartening to see what's going on right now. In 2020, Oregon, you don't have to run by party for a position like mine. Okay. It's fantastic. I love it. They still run for office, but there's not a label behind them. And that's what I believe should happen. And so in 2020, I changed my party to independent. I've been an independent ever since. So I run by petition. I don't have a party label behind me. And I think that's extremely important. You elect me, but not by a party. And right now we're seeing such partisan division when it comes to our elections. It's disgraceful. There are a lot of us just like me that are fighting for you every single day, and I'm going to fight even harder. Yes, I have 29 years of this. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to continue to do this work and continue to fight. I do believe that we will win. An executive order cannot impact elections. Elections are states' rights. It will get tied up significantly in litigation, okay? And we will be on the front line to ensure. We already are. I've already written letters. We have a very, very strong Colorado County Clerks Association. Hence, this is where this document comes from. And I can, there's copies back there, but I also can, Jan has an electronic version. So this is basically the life of it's tiny, I know, I apologize, but it's basically the life of ballots and the security and all types of just a high level here. But the Clerks Association put this together because frankly, we're tired of getting beat up and tired of the misinformation. There's so much bad information out there about how we're conducting elections. They are safe. They are secure. They are, there's so many things that we're doing. It would take an hour long for me to tell you all the things that we do to ensure that they are safe and secure. Mail ballot is not full of fraud. There is not case law to support that. Every piece of litigation that is out there, yes, there may be people that have attempted to create fraud, meaning sign someone else's envelope. Okay, we do signature verification, but if it does get missed, that could happen. It could happen. They're committing fraud and they would be prosecuted. But this percentage is not even a percentage of the amount of fraud in mail ballot. There's actually probably more case law and polling place issues. But again, very minimal. There just isn't election fraud. The non-citizens, so the SAVE Act, that's a piece of legislation. We are very, very, very hopeful it's going to get killed in the Senate. Very hopeful. That bill to me is, again, all it's doing is taking away voter rights. It's not fixing anything. There isn't a problem to fix. There is not non-citizens voting. Have I seen non-citizens on my voter rolls? Yes. Did they intentionally do it? No. Did they vote? No. They registered to vote because of confusion. Maybe they were at the farmer's market and they filled out a registration form not understanding what it was. Maybe they were up at the college or somewhere on the street, something happened. Somehow they got registered to vote. They'll come into my office. It's very, very, very infrequent, but they'll say, I got this ballot. I'm not a citizen. I can't sign this application. I'm not a citizen. Thank you. I apologize. You did fill out that form. let's get you removed, let's get you withdrawn. That's my experience with it. So the battle of saying that there's millions of non-citizens voting, to me, there's no case law that supports that. So the SAVE Act, you know, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. High level, I think a lot of you in this room probably understand it, but it's basically the most impactful to women with name changes. In Colorado, that's over 1 million voters alone. I'm one of those. I've been divorced, I've been married, I've had name changes. It doesn't match my birth certificate right now. My driver's license does, because I'm back to my maiden name. But I guarantee you there was times it wasn't. So for us, we would have to make sure that that documentation is submitted to us. And if we make a mistake, so my election judges, the average election judge is 73 years old. They're the best, I love them. And so if they make a mistake and they registered someone, you came in and they just were doing their work and they are getting all this stuff, if say that goes through and all this information is coming to them and they make a mistake, they are personally liable now. I am personally liable if I make a mistake. My staff can be personally liable. It's already difficult enough for us to find people like me. We lost 23 county clerks the last time everybody ran. We're all up for election again next year. I guarantee you, that's just Colorado. And we've lost more since then, more that have said, I'm done, I can't do this anymore. That's just the county clerks, let alone our staff, let alone election judges that say, Tiff, I can't do this anymore. This is too much for people walking in here and giving and being so blatantly mean and nasty to us. I can't do this. And I can't take that personal liability just in case this is going to go through. So what's going to happen across America is you're going to see people like me that say, I'm done, I can't do this. Because it could be an innocent mistake that we accidentally make. There's not fraud out there. We're not out there committing fraud. You guys all know that. But unfortunately, there's those that do believe that. So security has been quite interesting. Jan, make sure. So our safety, it's been really interesting for me. 2020 was the worst of my life as far as safety. But we got through it. My family's been here since 1896, and I live on a place that my great-grandparents built, a cabin, and it's fantastic. I didn't even know where the keys were. We never locked our house. We never locked our cars. We never even thought about that. That completely changed for me in 2020. So I have video cameras, I have locks, I have all kinds of things now. My husband now wants to put a gate at the end of the driveway, all the types of things. That's minor compared to what my colleagues in Colorado have gone through. Wells County Clerk Carly Coppice, a Republican, 9 death threats. The last one was for her 1-year-old child. She had to not even go into work during the 2024 and 2022 elections. El Paso County Clerk, he went through terrible, again, a Republican. They were attacking Republican clerks that are supportive of how Colorado runs their elections. Because we had a voice, because we said no, enough is enough. So Carly Coppice, the Boulder County Clerk, and myself went to Denver. We met with Denver 9 News, and we did a huge press release saying enough. Republican, Democrat, independent county clerk saying enough. Give us the facts. Help us understand what your concern is, and it's always silent. So we beefed up our security, definitely at my office, it's different. I've got an incredible staff. I only have 1 full-time election person. Everybody else I pull in from the different divisions of my office. So I run motor vehicle, I also run recording department and marriage licenses. So we pull people in to help us, and of course our fantastic election judges. Election judges are our community members. They sign up and they do get paid. It's different than it used to be. And Jan asked me about this, about can people get involved that way? It's a little bit more challenging for me because it's not a one-day event. It's multiple weeks. You get background checks, you have credentialing, most of the election judges need to have some computer skills. So it's a little bit different than it used to be when it was just traditional polling places. I'm fortunate, I have almost 400 people in La Plata County that has come to me saying, I want to help you. And that's pretty amazing. Like the election right now, I need about 40 to 45. In a huge election, I only need 100. So I'm very blessed in this community to have so many people willing to still help us, and I hope that continues. I think there's one back there, Miss Wendy. And I know there's the other election judges that have been. Okay. Yeah, and Jan, you worked with me for a bit, yeah, with Linda and with Linda, my predecessor. So please leave, I'm gonna leave this because I'm gonna be short on time here. But know that you shouldn't leave here feeling, oh my gosh, this is hopeless, just like Jane Goodall said. Know that there's people like me fighting. I will not back down on this. I will be at the Capitol to fight for this. I'm part of a legislative committee. I follow every piece of legislation that could impact us. Especially, my main objective is to keep Colorado how we have it. We've worked really, really hard, and we are a model for the United States. There are many other states that have adopted laws similar to ours or are going to. But I have colleagues across the United States. I'm nationally certified as well. So we have people from all over the United States fighting for these rights that you guys have fought so hard for. I really think we're gonna be able to win this. And I don't think they're going to win. I think there's too many of us that are vocal. And there's too many community members that need to continue to stay vocal. I know if I need help, where to go. And I know that if you see and you have the opportunity, there's literature back there to let your legislators know, your representatives know how you feel. I think it's critical. You let me know how you feel, and if there's information out there you're like, Tiff, I just need a little bit more information about this, you just get a hold of me. Tours, I love giving tours. Come see my office, come see what I'm doing, so you can leave and go, no, that's not what they're doing. This is how they're doing it. This is what signature verification is about. This is how secure the ballots are. There is not network to your Dominion voting system. I'm a huge Dominion fan. And we have Dominion. It's a fantastic company and a fantastic software. There is no wireless. All of that is misinformation. So if you ever need that fax, just come let me know. We're done. Okay, so, sorry, I could talk for hours, but as you can feel the passion. So I'll be back there if you have questions. Thank you all for being here again. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, Tiffany. Isn't she great? We are. Our next speaker describes himself as a long-standing conservation activist. However, his work and impact go far beyond that title. He brings a wealth of knowledge, experience, and perspective, and today he'll share both his story and his insights into the critical environmental challenges we face in today's political climate. A little bit of a pun, a lot of climate and environment. Please join me in welcoming Heath Nero.
Interestingly enough, I'm a graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point in Iraq grad, and I always get thanked for my service, but I want to thank Tiffany for her service. That's a real service. I was just an 18-year-old kid sitting in Menominee, Wisconsin as a goalie getting recruited by West Point. I thought, what could possibly go wrong with this decision? Well, in Iraq, I found out. But after I returned from Iraq, I knew I wanted to do conservation. I was in the Venn diagram, I was the 1 point of the Army Officer Sierra Club member. And so when I got back, I knew I wanted to do something different, and I went into conservation. I went to work for the Wilderness Society up in Denver for a couple of years. And then I went to graduate school at the University of Michigan for blue. They won today. It's Wisconsin, great. To do an environmental policy degree where I got a scholarship from the Weiss Foundation. And then when I graduated, they hired me, and for the last 16 years, I worked for the Weiss Foundation, including the last 9 running their conservation program, giving away about $125 million a year. to help create national parks and marine protected areas all around the world. But, I'm in a brand new job, which is why I do not have slides, because I took over as the vice president for the Rivian Foundation for their philanthropy and the executive director of their foundation as of last Monday. So apologies that I don't have slides, but I was a little busy. And I do have to say, I took a bunch of corporate trainings, and I have to say that I'm here as I'm in my personal capacity and not as a representative of the Rivian Company Board Foundation. Okay, now that we got that out of the way. All right, so climate change. The reality is, I think we all know that climate change is happening, and but biodiversity collapse is happening. That's the other side of the same coin. I have to start off all these talks with always bumming people out with some statistics. So sorry, but here's the reality. The last 10 years are the 10 hottest years on record. 2024 was the hottest year ever. Guess what was the one before that? 2023. We all know that glaciers are melting. I used to do a lot of work up in British Columbia. It's absolutely heartbreaking to see the pictures today versus what it was even just 30, 40 years ago. You know, we're seeing acidification of the ocean, coral bleaching, all of that stuff. We're seeing it, right? On the biodiversity side, the extinction rate for species right now is more than 1,000 times the background, what the expected rate of extinction would be. Since 1970, we've lost more than 68% of global wildlife populations. And this is the statistic that always sticks with me. Humans, our livestock and our domestic fowl now account for 96% of all mammal and avian biomass on Earth. That's crazy. So to summarize, it's pretty grim. But here's the good news. People telling us climate change isn't real, biodiversity collapse isn't happening, doesn't really work anymore. Because we're all seeing it with our own eyes. It's not something in the future, it's happening now. My most conservative family members will say, you know, something's just not right. The winters aren't as cold as they used to be. When I drive my car, there's no bugs on the windshield anymore. There's so many fewer birds. I don't hear the same songbirds that I used to hear. So people see it. And long term, I do not think it's a good political strategy to be telling people, don't believe your lying eyes. And so what you're seeing is a shift in the rhetoric. Going from it's not happening to, well, we can't afford to do the things that would actually make it better. But here's the thing, that's also not gonna work, because that's also telling you not to believe your lying eyes. When they do things like the funding that they've taken out of the Inflation Reduction Act, cutting green energy, well, people are going to see their bills go up, because the reality is that renewable energy prices have been plummeting, and taking that out of the mix is going to increase energy costs for all of us. So we're going to see this in our bills, and telling us it's not happening doesn't work. If they are successful with the effort to get rid of the roadless rule, for instance, they're trying to rescind that right now, all the Forest Service roadless areas. When people start seeing clear cuts in the places that they bike, that they hunt, that they fish, that's not going to go well for them. So if you think about that, the long-term, the solutions are more economical, they're cleaner, they're better for us. It's not going to work long-term, but obviously that all depends on our ability to vote. And to get decision makers in. So what can you do about it? Obviously, vote for candidates that are supportive of climate action and care about the biodiversity crisis. But there's more ways to vote than just voting, right? You can also vote with your purchasing power. So, of course, I'd be remiss not to say buy Rivian, but but look for a good place to start is the Conservation Alliance. If you're going to buy outdoor gear, look to find out whether or not the product you're buying is in the Conservation Alliance. It's part of the Conservation Alliance. There's a group of outdoor manufacturers that have banded together to demand climate action, to support public lands, and that kind of thing. 1% for the Planet is another great entity. That was started by Patagonia, by Yvon Chouinard. Those are all companies that have promised to give 1% of their net revenue to conservation effort and climate action. So vote with your dollars. Vote with your philanthropy. It's easy for me to say I work in philanthropy, but that could be your dollars or your time. We're gonna be back there, and there's a number of really great local organizations. Great Old Broads for Wilderness. Conservation Lands Foundation is a national organization working on BLM protected areas that's based here in Durango. I used to be on their board. There's a bunch of really great groups that you can either give your money or your time. And then lastly, vote with your voice. So that's beyond just voting, right? You can't just fire and forget, vote for good candidates and hope for the best. You have to hold them accountable. We started, when I was at the Weiss Foundation, we started an organization called the Western Conservation Foundation. And to summarize what they did is they thanked and they spanked. So basically, you gotta think of politicians as puppies, right? So when they do something good, tell them they're a good boy or a good girl. Encourage them. But when they do something bad, when they vote the wrong way, when they're saying stupid things, roll up the newspaper and spank. So, yeah, I mean, I appreciate the opportunity to talk here. I'll be back there. Yeah, any questions or comments?
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Katie. Boy, a wealth of information in our little town of Durango. I love it. Our next speaker, next slide. Our next speaker we are honored to welcome Liza Trigella, a longtime local social worker, activist, and advocate, and the current president of APOYA, the community team in support of immigrants. Liza has been a tireless voice for justice and compassion in our community, and today she'll share her perspective on immigration, both the broader issues and the challenges we face right here at home. Welcome, Liza.
A bad guy.
Actually, just because you've been sitting so long listening to people, I'm going to invite you to stand up and turn around and look at two other wonderful community partners. Spencer is here. She and I were confirming recently at a construction site. She's a volunteer with Compañeros. And this is Beatriz Garcia Wadel, who's with CIRC, the Community Immigrant Rights Coalition. And they're table. So there's a number of, I have a slide about the community partners, but while we're waiting for the images to come up, I'm going to be speaking from a slightly different angle about this because I'm a retired social worker and play therapist. I did 11 years of social work in inner city Chicago, where I was director of a bilingual program called Viva Family Center. And then I've been in Durango since 1989, working mainly in public health. I was the social worker, regional social worker for San Juan Basin Public Health for over 20 years. But then I also did a lot of contract work working with families and children. And I couldn't talk about this without talking about children. So that's where I am.
You want this?
You want Greg to,
You can
just sing that?
Just press that forward. And I'm not a president. We're just a collaborative. We're just an email group. Apoyo is the current name of a team that started out 7 years ago during Trump's first administration. I was not sleeping at night because I was so upset about children being separated from their families at the border. And I was a part of the immigration team at the Unitarian Fellowship. I invited friends from 7 other churches and Harvard Co-housing and anybody else who would come, and we did a meeting to talk about how do we help get people out. And my thought was churches could be a sort of underground railroad for people to get out of detention, because it's expensive to sponsor someone. If any of you would like to share a bedroom in your home and take in someone who's in detention, let me know. But we're taking a slightly different direction now. This was our first family that we sponsored in 2020. Sponsoring during a pandemic was particularly challenging. We were all masked and trying to drive them places. So this is them staying at a house. This infant, the detention center was particularly concerned because there was COVID in the detention centers. And they are not great places to be healthy. They weren't then and they aren't now. So we have a community team. We're celebrating because the dad got a driver's license, which took forever. So let me just say, 40 years of social work, the immigration system is completely broken. It always has been. If any of you want details about that, because some of my friends will ask me, well, why don't they just get status or become citizens? Don't get me started. I need more than 10 minutes for that. This is what I'm concerned about right now and why I'm sounding a little emotional. Over 20 children in this area, there's more than that. Those are just ones I know about, have lost parents to ICE abductions. Some of them present during the procedure. This is highly traumatic. Losing a parent under age 15 is traumatic by itself. Losing them in this way is particularly awful. Almost all these children are citizens, by the way. So I want to just give you a slide to show you almost a quarter of children in this country have immigrant parents. So when we talk about, this was from 2016, so that was the most recent one I could find, 23% were children with an immigrant parent. And so I think we need to consider this. We've allowed a policy to languish for years, and right now we're implementing policy that does absolutely nothing to solve the broken immigration system. It won't stop more people from coming here. It's just punishing the very people who didn't even create the monster we're living with called USCIS immigration. This you won't be able to see. In fact, I hardly can. But I wanted to include this quote because I think anyone can agree we have a labor shortage here locally and throughout the country. And so I wanted to bring that up too, because some people don't understand that there is bipartisan support to have labor. We're an aging, I'm a boomer. We need young workers. So this guy is Shane Myers, who's the CEO of OE, I'm not sure if I'm Produce from Idaho and Oregon. He says politicians have been talking about fixing our immigration system for more than 30 years, but they really haven't done anything about it. While lawmakers dither, the nation's farmers, ranchers, and dairy producers have faced massive labor shortages for years, and our industry is hurting. I'll talk more about him in a minute. I had to share this poster. I have it in my study. Siempre espero, no puedo hablar. Always I wait. I cannot speak. It is critical to understand that the people that are most affected right now have no voice and have no rights in many situations. And so it's breaking my heart. I've heard people talking about, yeah, but they're illegals. It is a misdemeanor to be undocumented. And so this is just a chart that Stanford did. I just wanted to have something visual to show. This is research showing that the evidence to date that immigrants are less likely to be imprisoned than US born individuals. In fact, most that are in detention at this very moment have had absolutely no crime of any kind, other than the misdemeanor of having sought a better life here. To punish people, to punish people who have only a misdemeanor is highly unfair. It's
70%.
yeah, 70% of people detained at this time. So we decided to change our name to Apoyo and to be a community team in support of immigrants. Our focus before was really limited. So many of you probably have never heard of us because we had like 50 people from a bunch of different churches helping specific asylee families. I just saw a young man that we currently sponsor who lives with one of our members. He's from Honduras. He's been here for 2 years. But now we're changing our focus, and we've been partnering more heavily with the other players. which we did before too, but honestly, back 7 years ago, compañeros didn't have people certified to fill out documents. They have one person now. We, and I'll get to that in a minute. So these are the partners I want to mention. CERC, which is Beatriz, is our local representative, and then Spencer's here as a volunteer, but many of you have heard of Compañeros, and they have co-directors, Enrique and Matt. And then there is a sort of surging, wonderful organization called the Colorado Rapid Response Network. Locally, we're trying to develop it more as a Southwest Rapid Response Network. I'm not in charge of that at all. I'm just part of it as a confirmer. And then we have also, across the state, there's over 20 immigrant protection teams. We may change that name, but those are teams like my team is an immigrant protection team because we're trying to help local immigrants. We're also taking some actions based on what the state is sending us about what's happening legislatively. There's a team in Cortez called Manos Unidas, and then Apoyo here. But again, we partner. Some of the actions that are recommended for the IPTs are done already by Compañeros. So we're working with them not to duplicate efforts. So any of you who want to help as a volunteer can come see us in the back. It depends on what you want to do. My work is more about direct help of families affected. So one example, we recognized our team was, one of our team members is a lawyer, and she said there's not a single immigration attorney in this entire region. We are what's called an attorney desert. So we raised $2,500 to bring in an attorney who was here for 2 days. He talked in this room to business owners about their rights. He also trained 20 local lawyers on features of the immigration law that they should know about to be able to better advise local clients. And then he saw 8 family members, and he, what am I leaving out? He did an interview with the Herald. So he did a lot in less than 2 days. Currently, what we're doing is there's ways families can prepare for a possible ICE removal, sadly, and I'm struggling. I know so many immigrants here, and some of them I literally would have talked to one day, and the next day they were removed. And so that breaks my heart. If they can do it ahead of time, they are much better off to have it designated who would get their children. Yesterday, I helped 4 different children apply for passports in case their parent is removed, because the children are citizens, but they can't get a passport without their parent present. So if you don't get your ducks in a row, you may be separated much longer than you planned. So that's what we're currently focusing on. I'm also working with kids just on trauma. This you can't read very well, but I'm just going to reference it. If you don't do 5calls.org, I do as a quick way, because I also care about these other issues we're talking about today, healthcare, everything else, the climate change. But under immigration, the current actions that they've listed is investigate the abuse and disappearance of ICE detainees. There's 1,000 from Florida alone. We don't know where they are. Resist escalation of ICE raids and detentions. Quite frankly, I would highly recommend that you all call about please don't build detention centers. I don't think they're only for immigrants, to be honest with you. Demand the unmasking of ICE agents. Many of the families I've talked to directly about their experience couldn't, one of them called the sheriff. He's like, there's some masked guy trying to break into my car. And then oppose the no bailout for, these are all technical, and I would just look at that site because there's more information and I only have 10 minutes. I had to have some humor. So there you go. Here's an ICE agent. Here's a kidnapper. I wanted to at least include something hopeful that's happening this month. There's a national organization that was started by actually a Republican legislator, for a former senator, called the American Business Immigration Coalition. So this is a page from their website. So if you look up American Business Immigration Coalition, you can find this. And October 21st to the 23rd, they are working on advocating for workers who have been here for at least, for example, one possibility, the Dignity Act. Workers who've been here for 5 years or more, no criminal history, would be allowed to have a work permit instead of being liable for removal. I mean, we have so many here And I know in a way it seems unfair to say, oh yeah, you came here illegally. I'm gonna challenge you to find out 3% of people who try to come here legally manage to do it. I have friends here, if you heard their stories of what they went through in their countries or what they went through to get here in addition, please forgive them and consider now many of them have been here for decades, working and paying taxes. They get no benefits from those taxes. That's a myth. I worked with prenatal patients. They do get health care. Anyway, these guys, it's a across the aisle effort to encourage our Congress, which unfortunately may be closed at that time, so I'm not sure how this is gonna go, to consider legislation like the Dignity Act, which would allow people who've been here for a while without any criminal history to stay. So I wanted to mention that. That's Emily. I'm gonna end because I'm from Chicago originally. And what happened there 4 days ago was beyond. It is, and I just had to share a write-up by somebody from one of the local newsletters. If you didn't know, I'll just read it. Imagine being a child awakened in the middle of the night by a Black Hawk helicopter landing in your neighborhood. Imagine an armed stranger forcibly removing you from your bed, zip tying your hands, separating you from your family, and detaining you in a dark van for hours. These were military-style tactics used on children. This is in Chicago. So I just want to end. My last quote is actually from Michael Cohen, who was an attorney of Trump's. He at one time said, I'd take a bullet for him. So he was a huge Trump supporter, so he knows. And he wrote a longer piece about this, about how often men were dragged outside. Some people were zip tied outside naked. They were literally pulled out of bed at 1 a.m. 4 days ago. Children shivering, unclothed, taken from their mothers as helicopters hovered above. A woman cried from across the street, I'll always love you. Papers, birth certificates, family photos tossed on the floor like garbage. It was awful. And this guy ends, and I'm gonna end by saying, he said, I spent years in Trump's orbit, not me, but him. I know how he thinks. He thrives on creating enemies and crushing them publicly. He doesn't see migrants as human beings. He doesn't see dissenters as citizens with rights. He sees everyone who isn't loyal as expendable. The raids in Chicago are not about public safety. They're about public submission. So the question is, how long before Americans stop pretending this is someone else's problem? How long before people realize that when Trump comes for the immigrant, he sets a precedent for coming for the journalist, the activist, the protester, the political opponent. This is how authoritarianism begins. And I'm quite concerned, especially for children. So thanks for listening. Please visit us.
Isn't she gorgeous?
So are you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, let's hear it for live then. Sorry. Okay.
Get there.
As he's doing the next slide, drum roll, please. That was a lot of information. Thank you all for listening and being here today. And a lot of kind of depressing information at that. However, we are now getting to the action portion of our meeting. Oh, maybe not that quickly, but we're getting there. And as he works tirelessly behind me, I'm delighted to introduce my partner in crime and resident tech expert, Greg Phillip. Greg has generously supported our work with the League, offering both technical guidance and volunteer spirit. Today, he'll walk you through the League's website and show you where and how to find action opportunities that fit your schedule and interests, and how you all can have access to those actions even after today's meeting. So please help spread the word to friends and acquaintances. And I will slowly say to welcome Greg.
We're almost there.
Okay.
I'm a Mac guy.
So. Also, I think you got the idea that just will, you're kind of running a little later today. We have the people in the back, all the presenters will be back there to ask questions of, and volunteer opportunities as well. And as I said, and also we have the league literature for the ballot issues coming up in November. It's the state issues as well as our 3 local issues back at the table on the left. Take a stress ball with you, think of the league, and without further ado, here's Craig.
So we've heard all the awful things that are going on, and the whole point of this talk was what kind of antidote is there for anxiety? So what Jan and I have been working on for the last few weeks is trying to come up with a list of things that we can all potentially do, depending upon what our interests are, what our availability is. And we built on the League of Women Voters website a source for you to be able to look up some things and get some good references. Now, when you checked in, there was this little sheet here. This has the address and a QR code. So if you want to find the site, you can go right to it. And I'm just going to quickly run through what it is. Now, we've taken each of the 4 topics that you heard about today, and we've summarize the league position on those topics. And then as you scroll down the page, we've identified the key issues and concerns. And then you can basically just put your cursor over each of these things and just read briefly. We may not have covered all of them, but we hit what we think are the main ones. Thanks to our good friend Claude.ai. Then we've got a section called Actions You Can Take, and there are tabs. So if you go across, you can look at signing petitions, and we've listed links to various petitions online that you can sign. We've also got a contact elected officials section. And I think Liza mentioned the 5 Calls app. I'd encourage you to take a look at it. It's a tool that gives you the ability to find and send messages, to your elected officials. Similarly, there's another one called the Resist bot that will automatically send texts, and you can go through these things and choose which messages you want to send. We've got all the contact information for all of our representatives, our elected officials, both federal, state, and local. And then we've created scripts so that if you want to call and leave voicemails, you can just read these things, insert your name, and from everything we've heard from talking to elected officials, these things matter. They may not always listen to them, but they tally them. And so, doing this is just a matter of course, making so many calls per day. We can make you feel better and get rid of the anxiety for sure. We've also got a section on for writing letters. If you wanted to write letters to the editor, you can always talk to Jan. She is the queen of letters to the editor. I am her humble servant who helps her edit them. We've also got sections for sharing information, educational resources, and then finally, we've identified some potential organizations that you can either volunteer with or donate to. So all this information is there. If there's something that we've missed or there's something that you would like to add, please just reach out to Jan or to me and let us know. We'll be happy to add that. So today we've got a little mini volunteer fair. You've heard a number of the speakers address that. I'm just going to quickly run through a few of the folks that are here. The League of Women Voters has committees, and if you're interested in getting involved and advocating for various causes, the League of Women Voters Healthcare Committee, which Jan heads up, has done some incredible work in this community. You may not be aware of the results of that effort. The League of Women Voters sponsored the formation of a local healthcare coalition called LFIC, La Plata Healthcare Improvement Coalition. Jan and I were involved with that over the course of the last 3 years. And out of that effort, we convened all of the heads of all the organizations, healthcare organizations, social care organizations, community, and got them engaged in a year-long process of meeting once a month in work groups. We had task forces, we did research, we did all kinds of work. And out of that came a proposal to create what's called a community care hub, which is called now being called Southwest Colorado Cares. you'll be hearing about this, but this hub is now actually being run by a local nonprofit organization called Community Connections, and it's run by Tara, our president of the local league chapter. We were able to obtain a $1.6 million grant from the state to form this hub. It's a 3-year grant. That money is coming into our area. We just recently hired 3 full-time people, or I say we, but Tara's group did. And ultimately what Southwest Colorado Cares is going to be doing is creating a network of health and social care providers that are connected via technology platform so that they can do a better job of referring people to one another, and that those people will be tracked and supported. They'll also be navigators and care coordinators. They'll be helping people obtain services and navigate systems. Going to be a lot of news that you're going to be hearing and about it, but essentially that came out of an effort that was sponsored by the League of Women Voters. We've got Durango Senior Center. We've talked with them. They've got some flyers back there. They're in need of volunteers. Mana is in need of some volunteers for an upcoming event. The Good Food Collective, great folks that are doing good work to try to help address food insecurity in our area. The Colorado Healthcare Coalition that Gwen was talking about earlier, and Team Up Southwest Colorado that helps coordinate people getting connected to other organizations in the community. There's probably others. We've got some great folks that have provided information on environmental causes, Four Core Mountain Studies Institute. If you want to go sit in the mountains and keep track of mountain goats and pikas and do all kinds of cool stuff, they've got some great programs for volunteers to get involved with, as well as paid positions. Citizens Climate Lobby, San Juan Mountain Association, San Juan Citizens Alliance. You heard from Tiffany. She doesn't need a ton of people, but certainly being aware of what's available and talking to her would be a good idea. We have the League of Women Voters has a voter services committee that if you're so inclined and interested, they're doing advocacy work and education work and helping get more folks registered to vote. And then likewise on the immigration side, we've got Compañeros, which you've heard, Apoyo that Liza just spoke about. We've got Spencer from the Colorado Rapid Response Network is back here today. She's happy to talk to you about what they do. And the Colorado Immigrant Resource Center. So these are all groups, local volunteer opportunities. Encourage you. Again, you can do as little as you want or as much as you want, but everything makes a difference. I want to encourage you to join the league, get involved. This is a really good, strong group of people, and they're doing good work. I wanted to introduce Ellie Morris, is a recent member who joined the league, and just wanted her to give you a few quick words about her experience being a league member.
I first heard about the league through my sister back on the East Coast. She enjoyed it. February, I realized I had to do something to keep sanity. And the league was in the back of my head. So I looked online, found a Colorado league that had a news organization meetings, and I went to that. When I was in that one, I was very impressed. After I got off that meeting, I joined. Then I found out in the next one that there was a La Plata one. So I've kind of slowly progressed my way to like being right here, which is what I really enjoy and admire about the league, is that it enables me to learn and that I can be engaged. It's factual based, as y'all have heard, and it's not inflammatory. And those are both really important to me. And the basis of it being our democracy and the ability to vote are also things that are really important. So I'm happy I'm a member of it. I'm happy that I'm right here in front of real people, and that it's not just online, and then it's not Colorado, and then it's not even national. It is all of those, but it's also right here. So that's one of the reasons that it appealed to me and how I got here.
Well, come on, if you're not a league member, join today. I also wanted to just say that those of you who are members should have received a form when you first came in here. Please fill it out and leave it at the sign-in sheet before you leave. Had to get that in before I forgot about it. So I recently came across an intriguing theory that groups people into 2 distinct types: lions and scavengers. Next slide. A lion is a builder. someone who believes that there is a duty to make the world a better place, to strengthen our social fabric, to defend what is worth preserving, to be innovative, to guard and protect what is good for the community. Next slide. Then there are the scavengers who are driven by envy. They tear down without thought of what comes next. Their grievance is always directed outward at structures, at institutions, organizations, and people, without offering a vision to replace what they destroy. Well, I'll admit, it was hard not thinking this was an us versus them theory, as we are wont to do in our polarized world, but instead, perhaps, both of those instincts live in each of us. I hope we choose to strengthen the lion inside ourselves, choose to build, not tear down, choose to defend justice, protect and uphold democracy, and create something worthy for the next generation. We've looked at healthcare, immigration, the environment, and voter rights and security. These are not separate challenges. They are the threads in the same fabric of a thriving community. And thank you for taking the time to visit the tables, visit with the speakers, and chat with our local organizations representatives about volunteer opportunities. Even if a topic isn't your personal priority, the needs in our community are significant. Consider keeping an open mind to see where your efforts or any action you take can truly benefit our collective lives. The League doesn't stop at discussion. We act. So before you leave tonight, let's each commit to one concrete step this week. Speak up, volunteer, donate, write a letter to the editor, have a conversation, or show up for a neighbor. Small actions add up, and together we can make a transformative impact. Thank you all so much for coming.